Good evening, everyone. Good morning if you're watching the replay. Good afternoon if you're watching the replay. Welcome to another Emerging Futures What's Next, where we put you face to face with experts and world leaders in their field so that you can pick their brain on anything that matters to you. And today we have with us the amazing John Gray. Hi, John.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. I started doing a little bit of John Gray watching on YouTube to get ready for this interview, and I want to dive into a little bit of what brought you to this book series before we actually dive into the book series. So one of the things that you said that was very, very fascinating was that you were celibate for 9 years, and then you thought that meditation and celibacy and all that stuff can actually cure all illnesses in the world, and it didn't help your brother. And then something changed for you. So can you share that story?
Well, sure. I'm a child of the '60s. I'm in my 60s now, and
20 plus.
everybody's getting high. And the Beatles went to India and got high on meditation, as opposed to drugs. So I decided I would go to India and get high on meditation. I went there also hoping to see the Beatles, but they just left. And then I stayed. I became the assistant to the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi of the Transcendental Meditation movement. And I was just watching on 60 Minutes, they're talking about the whole mindfulness movement. And they didn't even mention him, but back in the 70s, he really helped bring the whole idea of meditation into the world. And that was a big part of my life. And since he was a celibate Hindu monk, I became a celibate Hindu monk. Now, it wasn't like I wasn't interested in sex. Let me say that. I was very active as a teenager. But it's a traditional way to take that energy and put it completely into spiritual devotion. But then, and I benefited massively from it, but my brother, who was bipolar, did not. And I tried to help him. So then I quit being a monk and went out to California to study psychology. And that's how I became known as the guy who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I sort of had a different perspective having been celibate. Then I wasn't celibate, of course. I got married and everything. But being a yogi, being a celibate monk, you learn how to be happy within yourself. Mm-hmm. So I have that place to always go to. My wife makes me very happy. My work makes me very happy. But when it doesn't, I can always come back to that happiness inside and then reevaluate the outer world and see it in a more positive light. So I was able to take that ability and point out some common mistakes in relationships so we can see them more in a positive light.
I used to hear it, a few of my friends always say, you have to care, but not that much. And it's very interesting, right? Because our love songs, our books, everything out there is kind of like, you're my rock, you're my everything. Without you, I'm dead. And that sounds like really the source of all misery in relationship.
It's very funny. There's a book title actually called, "If You Can't Live Without Me, Why Aren't You Dead?" Life is about, people go way to the spiritual path. Often it's like give up attachment. And then people are really into the relationships. It's like attachment. We have to be somewhere in the middle. We have to, in my opinion, you have to be attached to the moment right now. And then the moment changes, so you have to let go. So life is always attachment and letting go at the same time. And then you have flow. That's really a wonderful state to be in, where life just flows through. And then occasionally we get stuck. For me, when I get stuck, I will pull back into myself to find that inner happiness. I will do something to make me happy. Then I come back to whatever I was stuck on, and I'm not stuck again.
I love that. And you're not expecting your wife to unstuck you. You take
that's the biggest secret in relationship, is you can't look to your partner to be the major source of your happiness. They are a source of your happiness. And when I'm making love to my wife, it's like the greatest thing in the world, okay? She is the source of all my happiness. But then you have to be able to come back. But if you don't have a place to come back to, then when the moment's over, you long for that moment. You're missing that moment. You feel a hole in your heart if you can't have it back, as opposed to continuing to move forward in the next moment, the next moment.
And I love that, because that actually puts the relationship and the responsibility for happiness on you rather than everybody around you. So it kind of frees everybody to be themselves, right?
It's such a great point you're making. It's, there's so many books on success, being successful in the world, and they're all based upon any person who's successful is really 100% accountable for the results they get. I mean, you can't complain to your customers. You can't blame people for not coming to you. Nobody's buying my book. What's wrong with them? That's a losing attitude. And yet we want to do is we need to apply that same awareness in our relationships, and just keep that little point in mind. I didn't invent this idea, but whenever you're pointing the finger, 3 fingers are pointing back at you, which
Right.
is, how am I responsible here? How could I have made this better? How can I contribute? But I think what's missing for people today, because this is a whole new world, we need a whole new role model system for relationships, is people are blaming our partners, but often it's because we don't know how we can do it differently. We're doing it in old-fashioned ways, but the world's needs a new software, so to speak.
It's true, because one of the things that you were talking about is the hormonal differences between men and women. And I can still relate to that specific thing, because there would be one day in the month, where I think that I'm speaking clearly, but obviously I'm totally, I'm a different person, and it's not me. And the next day, it'll be, I'll be like, what was I doing? So there's these hormone differences between men and women that make us react differently to life, right? So you were talking about the oxytocin and the testosterone. So if you can share a little bit about that, and then let's talk about how it is different in the world today where women are in the workforce.
Well, it was wonderful. About 12 years ago, they discovered in a laboratory that the hormone that lowers stress for women particularly is oxytocin. And what we also know is that whenever men are stressed, experiencing stress in not a positive way, cortisol is being produced, their testosterone levels have dropped. Their estrogen, the female hormone, is up. So this is very ironic. So here we are trying to feminize men, and yet actually when men's estrogen levels go higher, their stress levels are higher. And this hormone oxytocin, which we can call the love hormone, the attachment hormone, the safety, trust hormone, when women experience affection, safety, warmth, reciprocity in a relationship where you feel you're being heard and you're sharing, all those dynamics produce lots of oxytocin. And oxytocin is the hormone that will physiologically has known to lower a woman's stress levels. It doesn't lower a man's stress levels. Now that's very important. A man, when his oxytocin levels go up, which is good, we like love too, but once we're loving for a while, our testosterone levels start to drop and we start getting tired. And then when they go too far, then we become grumpy and irritable. When a man has the testosterone levels of a woman, he becomes whiny, complainy, irritable, grumpy, mean, tired, shut down, mad. All the worst characteristics of men happen when men's hormones start shifting to female hormones. And when women are in danger and are not feeling safe, their oxytocin levels go down, their testosterone levels go up, and because they feel like I have to defend myself, I have to pull out my sword, I have to do it all myself, which they can do, but their stress levels will tend to rise. So what I'm helping us understand is biologically, spiritually, we're really the same. We have a male and female side, but we have these bodies, and biologically, there are different hormone systems. And we want to balance these. We want to have a woman to access her masculine and feminine sides, but she has to respect that her body has certain female hormones. They need to be honored and supported, and likewise for men.
And what you were saying in your videos was actually amazing and very depressing in some way. So a woman's dream, right, is to go to bed and wake up skinnier, right? And men do that in their sleep. They lose weight in their sleep.
You're pulling out all these little gems out of my talks. I love it. So that's one of the disasters. It seems like a curse. Men have 30 times more testosterone, about 25 times more muscle mass by genetics. And when a man goes to sleep, his body is rebuilding testosterone and he's rebuilding muscle mass. Mm-hmm. So to rebuild muscle mass, he has to burn fat. So men lose a lot of weight while they're sleeping, whereas women don't, typically speaking.
I think it's devastating, because there was a survey, actually, they asked women, what would you give up an hour of your life for? And most women said, to wake up skinnier. But which is kind of funny, because they could actually wake up an hour earlier, waste that hour exercising, and wake up skinnier. That's not what they meant. They went, I want to go to bed, and I wake up skinnier.
Wake up skinnier. Well, to be quite honest, a man does lose a lot of weight when he's sleeping if during the day he used his muscles to the point of exhaustion. He really does have to use his muscles, then they rebuild. If he doesn't use up his muscles, they don't rebuild, and then he just gets fat. So there's a lot of fat guys out there who aren't using their muscles during the day. And what happens to women is that a lot of women will work out really hard, but they don't lose weight. And because the losing weight is a different process for women. They have 30% more fat cells in their body. Now, why? They're designed to have more fat cells. It doesn't mean they have to be overweight. That those fat cells give them energy, because fat actually gives you more energy than carbohydrates. Carbohydrates basically give you fast energy. Fat gives you long sustaining energy. So because for thousands and millions, however years we've been around, women being the primary caretakers, their job was never done. Men would go out, the sun would set, they'd recuperate. So men were more muscle mass oriented. The muscles break down, they have to rebuild, they have to rest to rebuild. Women had to be on duty all the time. And so women's brains literally don't have an off switch. That's what they found. They just stay going on going. Men can just shut down like that. And if a woman is relaxed, then she can access all of that extra fat on her body. So women have to lose weight, women particularly have to be relaxed and use their bodies. And this is really, really important because today women's stress levels, some research has shown that in the modern world, women's stress levels at work are twice as high as men's, and at home are 4 times higher. And it's that we call stress levels, it's the measurement of cortisol. When women have elevated cortisol levels, their body does not burn fat for energy. It can only burn carbohydrates, so you get sugar cravings, and then you eat more calories of junk food, and that then gets converted more into fat storage, and so we have an overweight problem for women on that side.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you were telling women is the activity that causes us to produce oxytocin and feel more connected is conversations. And if we exercise but we don't run out of breath, we actually exercising, walking and talking, and we can keep the conversation, that's a great way for us to know that we are losing weight and we are accessing the fat in our body.
Yeah, so there's two types of exercise that can help women lose weight. If we're looking at just the we'll look at the bigger picture. One is lowering stress levels in your life. There has to be a good balance between work and personal life and alone time, me time. It's like we talked before. Men get their cave. When do women get to do something they would love to do? How many women, their friend says, oh, would you make cookies for the PTA? And she says, no, because I want to go home and take a bath. Or I want to go read Harry Potter, whatever it might be. Women don't give themselves permission, and they feel like they have to explain all the time why they can't do things, as opposed to, hey, I need time for me, I need time for my friends, I need time for my work. It needs to be a balance. And so that's one aspect of it. And here's the catch. When women are under stress, their brain tends to create emergencies outside themselves in terms of what do other people need, as opposed to what do I need. So men don't have that. When men are under stress, we tend to just think about me. It just goes right into what do I need. Women tend to go, what about you? What do you need? Until their stress levels increase, they're exhausted, then they feel resentful, and then it's what about me? But at that point, you can't really communicate that in a nice way where people go, oh, let me help you out here.
I think you just gave us permission to go shopping.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, why shopping? And I do, is shopping, getting your hair done, getting your nails done, getting a massage. These are all well-known stimulators of oxytocin. Now, the expert on this, I have to say, well, my wife's become an expert, but even more is my youngest daughter. She's the major blogger at MarsVenus.com, and she's got a great course that's coming out next year called How to Get More Me Time. And it teaches giving women permission for me time, because really, when I wrote Men Are From Mars, it helped explain women to men and men to women, but I'm a guy. And what she says is, Dad, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this. So she's filled in all the holes from a woman's point of view and a modern woman's point of view. Things have changed since I wrote Men Are From Mars. The world's a different place. So she's a coach, and she deals with people's issues. And it's like, it's so important for women to have a girl cave, you know, and how to go to your girl cave without feeling guilty. How do you go to your girl cave without your mind worrying about this and this and this and this? It's kind of a little bit of a paradox. You see all the spas, they have these pictures of women meditating, you know, as if they're in peace. But really, those women are worrying about their kids, and they're worrying about what I have to call so-and-so. I haven't done this. What's going to happen here? Their brain is so busy. But Lauren teaches women. She teaches women how to really relax. But it's about making the oxytocin. So you make the oxytocin by your relationship skills. You lower your stress. Then you can enjoy your me time. Then when you enjoy your me time, then you have energy to go back out into you time. So she's got it all figured out.
I love it. So first of all, ladies, you have permission to go have fun and take me time, and let's have a girl cave. I love that concept. So let's talk about the fact that, like, hormone and stress and how men and women deal with it differently, because you're right, the world has changed, and there's a lot of single women, single mothers even, that are busy, you know, raising their kids, supporting their families, working 9 to 5, even longer, and then coming home and having to be feminine and relax. How do we do that?
Well, it's not easy.
No.
If it was so easy that I could give you a simple solution, I think it would be an insult to every woman, because so many women are faced with this challenge.
Yeah.
And that's why Lauren breaks it into pieces. But here's a very significant part of the puzzle. Women are generally not very adept or good at asking for support from the people in their lives. If they're married, how do I ask my marriage partner to do this for me? If you have children and you don't have a partner, how do I get my children to do this for me? How do I get support from others to do this for me? How do I say no to other people making demands on me? How do I carve out space for me? That seems like the ultimate selfish thing. So how do I do that? So here's one tip I could certainly suggest to help create more space and time, and that would simply be when somebody asks you to do something, and everybody can practice this week, which is somebody asks you to do something, this is the phrase, what would it be? You ask me to do something, oh,
John,
I'd love to, let me just say the phrase, here's the phrase, I'd love to do that, I wish I could, but I can't. I'd love to say yes, I wish I could, but I can't. And you don't have to give any more information. No more information is required. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to say, because I'm going to go do something for me that I enjoy. You don't have to say that. Otherwise, other women will think you're so selfish.
So when you're talking about, I love that. I got my hair, my nails, my glasses. It's really important. So when you were writing this book, Staying Focused in a Hyper World, and this is green, so that's why the green screen is like seeing right through it. So, but you were writing this book, and the reason I believe, right, you got into that was because you cured your own Parkinson's disease with natural cures and not with drugs, and you decided to write a 3-book series, right, that lays out the ways that people can heal their own ADHD, stress, and memory and brain functions, and how all that stuff can happen with, like, no drugs. So how did you heal your own Parkinson's disease?
Well, first of all, today so many people over 50, 60, 70 are losing their minds. Okay, literally they're not remembering what they used to remember. This is a very common problem, and it's a new problem. For women, right now, any woman that lives over 55, any woman alive in America over 55, 1 out of 6 of them has dementia. Now just take that in. That's very scary stuff. And if you have ADHD, if you've been diagnosed ADHD, for example, your risk of Parkinson's disease is dramatically higher whether you're male or female. Now, when you're a boy, your risk of ADHD is much greater than with girls. It's about 2 to 3 times more boys have ADHD than girls. But what I explain in my book is that there's a condition that gives rise to ADHD in some boys and some girls. But that same condition is much more wide. It's a hyper condition. So the title of the book is Staying Focused in a Hyper World. Our world has become hyper. We're overstimulated all the time. We're way busier than we've ever been before. Stimulation here and there. We all know that. We've heard about it, how to unplug and all those things. So, but what people don't realize completely is how it affects the brain, how it's affecting our children, single people, married people, and then aging people. And that's what I talk about. And it's the same way for some children, it comes across as hyperactivity. For other children, it comes across as hyper distracted, disorganized, creative, but hyper distracted. For other children, and a lot of women, it comes across as hypersensitive. That means things bother you more. The colors in the food bother you more. The taste of things bother you more. What people say to you is more intrusive. You get depressed. You get hurt. You're more sensitive than other people. And they think, what's wrong with you? That's a form of this hyper condition, which we often call ADHD. If we're going to use that term, we need to expand it. And then there's the other people that they're really diligent children that get things done. They do what you say. They tend to be very, they move along very nicely. They then become hyper-stimulated, become hyper-perfect, hyper-responsible, hyper-accountable. This is like hyper-everything is the world we're living in today, and it doesn't make people happy. Right. Now, in some cases, people think, well, I need that hyperness in order to write a book or to get something done or keep my house clean. No, you don't. Cleanliness, creativity, responsibility, these are all natural traits that we can find within ourselves without this hyperness. And so the conditions happening as adults, which is this need for hyperstimulation, means my partner becomes boring very quickly. So people write to me all the time. My clients are always saying, my couples I counsel are saying, how can we bring back the passion, the attraction? Where did it go? And I say, it's the same condition as ADHD in relationships. It's depending on hyperstimulation in order to feel alive and well. So that's the phenomena.
And you're talking about it coming from our food and our lack of exercise, right? And then not having enough supplements.
Even exercise. Let's just take exercise off to the side for a moment. There's some new research that just showed, there was also older research that showed this, that just getting 30 minutes of exercise 5 times a week was more effective than antidepressants that a doctor would prescribe. And when you take an antidepressant that a doctor prescribes, it has side effects which make you dependent on the drug, 1. And 2 is any person who takes an antidepressant, this is every person, after the first pill, their cortisol level, the stress hormone, doubles. So their mind is numb, but their body goes into a more heightened anxious state. This is not good for their health. And if it was the only answer, great, thank you for the antidepressants, but it's not. 30 minutes of exercise, now it's a simple one, but there's so many other solutions. ADHD drugs, this is what parents don't know, people don't know, how much this is being given to children. 1 out of 8 boys in America at 6 years old, is taking a narcotic. This is a street drug. Ritalin and Adderall are just like cocaine and methamphetamines. The DEA wants to calls them a narcotic. They're not good for you. They have long-term side effects. Doctors are not told those long-term side effects. That's why I wrote this book, because I see on TV, I see in the news, everybody says, oh, there's no side effects. There's long-term life side effects that we've now discovered in the last few years. There's studies that prove it. There's even injury to the brain after 1 year of taking these drugs. A Harvard University study talks about the damage to the brain that's irreversible. Now, I don't believe it's irreversible because, as you mentioned before, I reversed my Parkinson's. So I know the brain can heal itself. Now, remember, when I say that, it was early stage Parkinson's. And so I was able to catch it at the beginning, which was really good. And that's how I got into all these ideas and the natural solutions in this book. I just want parents to know there are these natural solutions and the drugs are not good for you. Most parents will tell me, we tried everything. I say chapter 9, here's 10 things you can do. Have you tried any of those? They go, oh, well, no, I didn't know about that. And chapter 9 is just the things that have been proven to be more effective than taking drugs. More effective. And then there's things for optimal brain function. You know, my brain works so much better now since I started doing all these good natural supplements and good diet and good exercise. But here's the trick to it. We need a certain amount of vitamins and nutrients from a good diet. But if you're already over the edge and you have any of these conditions, you need to have natural medicine, which means natural supplements. You need more vitamin C, for example. You need something called grapeseed extract. You might need supplements of omega-3 in your body. There's an amino acid L-carnitine that will make the omega-3 work. Sometimes omega-3 does nothing, but the child then also needs to take L-carnitine because they have digestion problems. They have digestion problems because they were given soy milk as children. I mean, there's so many, it goes on and on. In the last 30 years, all these changes have happened, and we see that there's 35 times more mental illness in this country. I was just teaching in Brazil. 95% of the women in Brazil take sleeping pills to go to bed. Now, I'm not against a natural sort of herb to sleep at night if you're on jet lag or something, but it shouldn't be that way every night that we have to depend on something like that. That's a sign that our adrenal gland is getting burnt out. For women, that means a lot of uncomfortable menopausal symptoms. That means loss of libido. Lots of problems and depression can come from adrenal gland burnout. Hormonal imbalance will result.
So I see you speak so passionately about this, and I have to ask you, what is the source of the passion? Like, why does it bug you so much that so many people are sick, and it doesn't bug so many doctors or, enough people to come out and say exactly the same thing that you're saying?
Okay. Well, I know lots of doctors who prescribe drugs, and they were educated to do that. And people will criticize me and say, John, how can you come up with a cure for Parkinson's, a cure? Well, actually, I have 100 natural solutions for all kinds of conditions. I opened a wellness center 12 years ago and said, I will research your problems for free, because I did very well with Men Are From Mars, and so I just wanted to help people find natural solutions for their situations. I mean, there's a whole list of things that most people are just not aware of. I certainly wasn't aware of. Doctors are definitely not aware of. And the obvious thing is people say, John, they're spending billions of dollars in research centers to research these problems and find solutions. And how can you come up with a simple solution? I said, because I'm not spending billions of dollars to prove that a drug can solve the problem. I'm just showing what nature does. Nature, people didn't have all this Parkinson's before. This is a huge phenomena today. And these natural solutions, many of them are new because we have new technology for supplements, but a lot of them are old. There's some hydrotherapy techniques in my book that I've seen completely reverse completely reverse autism in children. In 3 months, complete reversal. In 3 days, they start talking. I've seen this. I had it in my wellness center. We did documentaries on it. It doesn't have to be so hard, folks. We don't have to drug ourselves. I just saw in 60 Minutes the guy who's got the cancer cure. He said, okay, he's one of the richest men in the world. He has $5 billion or something like that. It's just a staggering amount of money, and he spent $1 billion on his fancy genome cancer treatment to develop the drugs that will cure this cancer or that. It's in his mind, I got a solution that's going to make me $1 trillion. I can tell you right now, go to a simple clinic in Switzerland where every single person, their cancer is cured taking a yogurt. That's it. You can order the yogurt and take it at home. I have patients in 3 weeks, some of them completely cured of cancer. And when you say that, people think, are you crazy? Are you nuts? They're spending $1 billion. I say, just read the literature. Over 100 studies showing these cures, these remedies. In my book, over 80 pages of references showing how these drugs affect children and what natural solutions are, how they affect adults.
So this is, one of the really weird things that happened to me after meeting you in Colorado. Before I met you, I knew no one that had cancer. After I met you, I met 4 people who were going through cancer treatments now, and I've shared the yogurt with all of them. And many of them say, I've eaten well before, I really believe in all that stuff, but it's very different when you have the disease and you are so fearful to do anything else. You rely heavily on Western medicine because that's your only hope, and you really think that they're going to help you, and then they start sending all these emails with losing the taste buds and being irritated and not going well with radiation, but there's this fear of like, I cannot stop doing that and go heal my gut for 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's such a fear. And one of the things they tell people is only 5% of the people who have cancer survive for 5 years. You're going to go through all of that And here's the research that shows that in a few months you can heal cancer. But here's the good news you should let them know, is that even if they do their chemotherapy, eating the yogurt, it's just a special yogurt. It's just a food that's been around for hundreds of years. A simple food that you can eat during your chemotherapy. There's the website. You do this during your chemotherapy and you won't have all the side effects. They have one study that came out this year showing that if you're doing chemotherapy and you do the yogurt, you don't get chemo brain. So that's a really good thing. And I have friends now. I have another friend who is actually doing the chemo and he's doing the yogurt and he has no symptoms. He's doing fine. The doctors can't believe, actually they think their tests are wrong because it shows he has no more cancer. When they do the surgeries and they pull the tumors out, the tumors have no cancer in them. The miracle here, it's not, people think, how does it do this simple yogurt? Our body has been curing cancer for millions of years. Cancer was a rare disease before. Yes, some people had it, but very rarely did people get cancer. Now, why did we stay healthy? Because we had a healthy gut, and that healthy gut makes certain proteins, and when people have cancer, they don't make those proteins. Why are people not making those proteins? It's called GCMAF protein that activates vitamin D. Why do they not make that protein? Because we've eaten food with pesticides that can heal the good bacteria, that can kill the good bacteria. We've taken antibiotics again and again that can kill the bacteria. We've eaten certain substances, chemical substances that will kill the gut bacteria in our gut. All of these they create the perfect storm for an inhibited immune system. Now what's interesting is that inhibited immune system also creates a perfect storm for all these mental problems as well. So they go hand in hand. I mean, we just need to address our immune system, our gut system, our digestive system, our liver system, our blood sugar system, our brain system, our detoxification system. It's not that much. I know it sounded like a lot. To understand each system, go through and take a few supplements for a few months and be done with it. I've done this in my life. I cured one of the most life-threatening diseases. I mean, this is amazing how it works. And there's so many good naturopathic doctors around the world that already know this and are teaching that, and that's the good news.
So I'll continue playing devil advocate, because yes, I am trying to get this to my friends. And one of the biggest complaints, like, okay, if they already have the cure for cancer, what's going on with the Coleman Foundation? Why they're still researching? Why is nobody still talking about it? Why are they going to chemotherapy if we already know the cure?
Oh, why are they doing it? Because they're spending billions of dollars to find a drug that they can patent and make billions of dollars. Who's going to spend billions of dollars researching if you can't get your money back? It's not even evil. It's just like, who can pay for the research? And the universities would normally do the research, but the people that fund university research are the drug companies who provide the drugs, and the doctors are taught the drugs. We're talking about simple yogurt. And by the way, this was discovered in a university lab. They found this out. I mean, this is all amazing research that has been done, and we're thankful for that research. It's just that once they find it cures cancer, it's like they go on to something else that they can patent. That's the whole thing. You can't patent yogurt. Right. And what makes this yogurt special, so we're explaining to everybody else, is it has 42 probiotics. There's no other product on the market that has 42 probiotics. And those 42 probiotics, you make it at home. I make yogurt every week now. My big Christmas present this year is my wife gave me a yogurt maker. Although you don't have to have a yogurt maker, you just put it in the oven with no heat and the light on. It's the perfect temperature. It's your own yogurt maker. But this is something we have to learn. These are kind of the old ways. Hydrotherapy is an old way. Another old naturopathic remedy that I think would save millions of children today from autism. Now think about this. In California, 1 out of 20 boys have been diagnosed with autistic spectrum disorder. 1 out of 20 boys. It's unbelievably shocking. And one of the things that would help this, not the only cure, but well, first of all, the yogurt, 25% of children with the yogurt reverse autism completely. The others get tremendous improvement because they're not doing all the other things that are good for the brain.
So since you only listed just a few systems that we need to take care of, right? I think this is the first hurdle of actually starting to being healthy. There's so much information and there's so much confusion. And I just read an article, I can't remember where. Why do Americans refrigerate their eggs and Europeans don't? And the reason why Americans refrigerate their eggs is because they're being washed by pesticides afterwards so that they don't have salmonella in them. And there's a certain temperature that they have to keep the eggs at, because if they start sweating, then the chemical that they put on the egg will penetrate the egg and you can get salmonella. So even the eggs are not okay. So how do you start? Where do you start if you want to have, a good healthy diet?
Well, it is researching, and I think when you come to healthy diet, the simpler you get, the healthier you're going to be. It doesn't have to be so complicated, but the complication comes in when we have health challenges. Then we need a little extra sophistication, and that's why you've gone to my website. You've seen for every health condition, I have a 10-minute video explaining how did you create this problem, what can you do, here's some directions you can go in to solve the problem. Oh, there you're putting up the GCMAF yogurt. Yeah, that's a link to it.
Yes, so I'm showing on your website right now all the remedies and all the solution. But again, John, when you look through this, you go like, okay, do I need this? Do I need this? How much of this? How long do I need this? Do I combine this with this or this with that? What works?
All right, now what that website is about. Now, first of all, I do have a place for every condition which just explains. You don't just go in there and look at the website like that. But when you go, there's on the left, you can see different conditions, and you click on those, and you find a video where I explain what these products are. These are things you'd find in a health food store. So what I do is give you a 10-minute video on what these things do for you that are in the health food store. Because many people go in there and they go, hey, here's somebody getting paid minimum wage, and I'm asking them for health advice. And so it's questionable whether you're going to get a real experienced answer. Now, my answers are from 12 years having a wellness center working with these products, and also having it at my website. I get to hear from people what worked for them, what didn't. But long before that, I got to hear at my wellness center. But ultimately, the supplements are just to get us to a place where we can follow a good diet. If you don't have enough, if you have oxidative stress in your brain, for example, high amounts of vitamin C and grapeseed extract, other antioxidants will help a lot. When you apply those solutions, then suddenly you find that, oh, my oxidative stress is less in the brain. Now I'm not craving sugar. So it's easier to have a healthy diet. People write to me, they say, John, you say don't eat sugar. How can I give it up? I'm addicted to it. How do I give it up? It's hard to eat a healthy diet without feeling I'm depriving myself, as opposed to not being attracted to those things and having it in moderation. I have it in moderation. This is a Christmas season. I'm going to gain 5 pounds for sure, without a doubt. People put it in front of me. I wouldn't buy it, but they put it in front of me. Everybody gives me these gifts. I'll eat it. I'll gain 5 pounds, and then in January I'll do a cleanse, and I'll be back to me again.
I love that, because this is so balancing. You're not depriving yourself, so you don't have to hoard food, and you don't have to compensate with food. I love that. Virginia, jump in, my friend.
Yeah, this is a wonderful conversation. I love it, John. I grew up on an organic beef farm back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and I was like the little red hen. Everything that I did, raised organic wheat. I ground my own flour, stone ground it, made the bread every day. Kids never had sugar because it wasn't something we could raise on the farm. To me, food is absolutely our best medicine. The challenge that I see today is really the quality of our food supply. It's not fresh in most instances, so it loses a lot of nutrition just in shipment, even if you could get good quality food fresh. But also the farming techniques today are just not good. I mean, they're not even replacing the trace minerals in our food supply and in our soils, so that the food we do get, even if it's natural, is not of high quality. So I'm wondering how you would comment on that. And the second question I have is about the oxidative stress that's created, which comes from so many different things in our environment and our food and pesticides. So what ideas do you have for us to really start to reduce oxidative stress in our system?
Wow. Oh, thank you for asking those questions. They're great questions. And thank you for being, sharing what you shared, because you're an example. You're glowing, you're radiant, you're beautiful. You're sharing an example how people used to be. They live on the farm, they grow their food. The food was great. They enjoyed it. They were grateful for it. I'm here in California today and it's raining for the last week or so. We're just so grateful for the rain, because we ran out of rain. This is what connecting back to nature. And what's happening with the first thing you just said is because of the farming practices are mass produced, they use the fertilizers. The fertilizers only replenish 3 minerals. There's 80 minerals, so now the food looks good like Hollywood, but it doesn't have all of the nutrition. It's empty calories. It's a lot of calories, but it's empty. At my website, at the health food store, our #1 biggest selling product is simply a full spectrum mineral product. I have seen children who are like hyper and anxious and not being able to sleep, and the parents say, we're feeding them good foods. I say, just try giving them a really good mineral supplement with all of the trace minerals, which you wisely mentioned, is that we need the trace minerals, and those are the little ones, micro doses, and we need macro minerals like calcium and magnesium and potassium and zinc, so forth. So we need big minerals and little minerals, and we need it in a form the body can utilize. Here's the thing, a lot of the mineral products, when people take them, it doesn't go to the brain. What they found is that if you take macro minerals and you bond them to mother's milk, okay, there's a substance in mother's milk called uric acid, and you bond the minerals to uric acid, it becomes calcium orotate, magnesium orotate. Suddenly, the orotate helps it go across the brain so the brain gets its minerals. When we eat food, if the food has minerals, then it will cross the blood-brain barrier. But in most mineral supplements, it will not cross the blood-brain barrier. But when it's bonded to mother's milk, it goes across the brain barrier. It's a miracle. So these are the special minerals that I promote, which are called the orotates, potassium orotate, magnesium orotate. And somebody was just telling me recently, I still have all these sugar cravings. I want to follow a good diet. I say, just take double the minerals. You won't be hungry. Usually why we're hungry is we want to get what's missing in our food, as you just pointed out. Now, the second question is, I love the question. It's about oxidative stress and how can we lower the oxidative stress. And unfortunately, 99% of our listeners don't know what oxidative stress is. So I'll take a moment to explain it. Eventually, it will be common sense. There's over 150,000 studies on PubMed talking about oxidative stress causing autism, causing Parkinson's, causing ADHD, causing lung problems, causing cancer, causing heart disease, causing autoimmune disease. Every organ in the body when we're sick, is somehow not functional. What causes it to be non-functional is this phenomenon of oxidative stress. It's so big that nobody thinks they can tackle it, as opposed to deal with oxidative stress and everything gets better. So what is oxidative stress? Whenever your body makes energy, right now I'm making energy in my brain, free radicals are being produced. People they've heard free radicals. They think of toxic food producing free radicals, and toxic foods do. But also, anytime you exercise, anytime you do anything good for yourself, anytime you're thinking, writing, expressing, singing, being alive, produces free radicals. They're part of life. There's nothing wrong with them. But then as soon as you make the free radicals, then your body says, oh, there's these free radicals, which are molecules that are missing an electron. Then your body says, hey, let's make some electrons. Let's bring them forward and neutralize that free radical. So that's called an antioxidant. An antioxidant is a molecule with extra electrons. So it's really like a single guy saying, hey, I'm looking for a beautiful lady here. And the electron pops up and he connects and they're all happy again. But if you don't have enough single ladies around, if you don't have enough electrons, that guy's going to go steal one. And he has a dysfunctional relationship, and now he's created a dysfunctional relationship, and that one goes on to steal from somebody else and somebody else. And this is called oxidative stress. And there's injury and damage that occurs. Neurons start to disappear in the brain. Neural connectors start to disappear. Now, what can make oxidative stress off the chart is heavy metals. So lead, mercury, aluminum, cadmium. These are heavy metals in the chart of elements. These heavy metals, they catalyze with the brain molecules and create millions more free radicals. So the body is damaged by excess heavy metal toxicity. Where do we get heavy metal toxicity? Just living next to a freeway, getting vaccinations. Every vaccination has aluminum in it. They're putting it into your bloodstream. It's in our foods. It's in our water. It's in our air. It's when you're the cows. They're putting it in the soil. All this stuff is coming into our body. Not to worry if our body can eliminate it. That's the secret, is helping the body get rid of these things. That's the elimination system. But guess what prevents your body from removing these heavy metal toxins that cause massive oxidative stress in the brain?
Sugar.
Sugar does it. Now, why did sugar? There's many things. I give 15 causes in my book. But why sugar does it? A little sugar won't do it. It's chronic sugar. What happens is your blood sugar starts getting higher and higher. That inhibits your liver to make this miracle molecule. It's a protein called glutathione. Glutathione, only 5% of the population has heard the term. In 20 years, everybody will know the term. People with Parkinson's, you give them an injection of glutathione, they start walking and talking right before your eyes. It's a magic. You can do YouTube searches for Dr. Perlmutter and glutathione injections and see what he does with people. Autistic children, improvement with glutathione. My message is, how do you help your body make it? You don't have to take injections of it and be dependent on that. Find out why you don't have enough and change that, and at the same time, help your body to heal, help your liver to heal. So high blood sugar inhibits glutathione production. So that would be one of the reasons. Another reason that we're going on and on to details of it, but that's one of the causes. One of the big ones I was about to get to is over-the-counter drugs. Most people don't know that everything that, when you get a prescribed drug, the reason it's prescribed is because our society acknowledges that this is dangerous, that this will have dangerous side effects. People don't get that. I'm getting a prescription because this has dangerous side effects. And all of them, almost all of the drugs you take, will inhibit your body's ability to make glutathione. That's the first thing. But even the non-prescription drugs, if it's in a drugstore, it inhibits your body's ability to make glutathione, this amazing protein that your body makes in order to, it's an antioxidant 1,000 times more powerful than blueberries, for example. It's your body's way of neutralizing the free radicals so the body stays healthy. And we're designed to do it, but now we're doing all these things. Another basic thing that parents need to know is fevers. Okay, if your child has a fever and 101 fever is totally safe, 102 fever is totally safe, 103 fever is totally safe, 104 fever is totally safe. It's scary, I know. Your child is uncomfortable. They might have a few little seizures. 105 is safe. There's never, ever been a study showing that a fever caused damage to the brain. The fever increases glutathione. The fever stops infection. The fever stops viruses from replicating. This is your body's natural healing response. And I'm not saying never take antibiotics. If it goes on for days, then go ahead and get antibiotics. But know then you have to come back and repopulate your gut with the 42 probiotics because you just wiped them out. And if you don't restore those good probiotics, then your body can't make the right vitamins that you need and all the proteins that you need. This is taking millions of years to evolve. It's called the microbiome. It's the second brain. It actually determines what you eat. Your willpower could be up here, but when it weakens, who's telling you to eat that junk food? It's your gut. It's literally, the gut is the second brain. It makes brain chemicals. It precedes the thinking in the brain up here, and yet we're wiping it out with antibiotics, with vaccinations, and the worst on the list is something called glyphosates, which is your GMOs. Your GMOs mean that they can put these really strong pesticides on the plant and it will still grow. And why are so many people today gluten intolerant? Why a third of the people can't even eat wheat? What happened? People could always eat wheat. Wheat is amazingly good for you. It produces B vitamins. It's fiber. It's fantastic. People have thrived on bread. Well, there's many reasons. One of the major reasons is for years now, secretly, they've been spraying wheat. These big companies, they spray the wheat with Roundup, which is the most toxic pesticide known to man, which normally GMO plants can only handle it. But what they do is they wait till the wheat has completely grown, and then they spray it to kill all the bugs on it. And that spray is in the wheat. The wheat goes in your body, and a pesticide kills the bugs in your gut. There's good bugs, that's called bacteria, and there's bad bugs. Well, it kills the bad bugs, kills the good bugs, but the bad bugs grow back faster.
So let's, Mia, before we jump to you, this is, it's kind of like we're doomed. Nothing we're going to eat, breathe, and it's like,
But it sounds that way, but we're not. If we don't wake up, we're doomed. We're totally doomed. And you see it, when doctors tell you there's no research on what I'm saying, are you kidding? There's thousands of studies, first of all. And second, there is no research on drugs when you're taking 5 of them. And everybody knows when you take one drug, you then need another one to treat the side effects of that. You need another one to treat the side effects of that. There's no study ever showing the validity of taking several drugs at once. We're in a big experiment now, and the best thing we can do is to keep coming back to what seems easy, what we can do for ourselves, and only rely on doctors for emergencies. We rely on them for emergencies. It's great. They do emergency work, and fantastic. But health is our responsibility, not a doctor's responsibility.
Yep, same thing as happiness, right? It's your own responsibility.
It's exactly what we started out with. We don't look to our partner to make us happier.
We don't look to our doctors either. So one of the main questions, there's so many questions coming up, but when I was reading your book, you emphasize healthy diet, exercise, and supplements. And supplements are not natural, right? So what is the difference between drugs and supplements, aside from supplements are not supervised by the FDA?
Well, supervised the FDA, and that's another crooked institution.
Right.
I give no credence to that. That's a whole story. But nothing in your health food store is approved by them, thank goodness. Okay, so they're trying to control it, though. So now there's 2 problems in the natural supplement business. One is, does the product you're taking actually provide the actual product? There is no control over that. So if somebody says, I've got vitamin C, is there really that much vitamin C in there? Some regulation would be great for that. So that's the question. That's why I think word of mouth is so important. You talk to somebody who said that you trust, who says this worked for me. And you hear that again and again, and that's why I recommend things. So that's the first thing, is it actually the substance it says it is? Second, what's the problem with this stuff is you're saying, is it natural? Some of these things that I recommend are completely natural, like whey protein, undenatured whey protein. That means it's not cooked at a high temperature. Just that will increase your glutathione levels 400%. It's a miracle thing for kids, for parents. I just had some today with granola. I just got some good whey protein, mix it with water so it becomes like a milk. But what it is, it's a milk that is unpasteurized. Okay, so it's raw basically, but it also has had it's spray dried so bacteria hasn't grown in it. So anyway, that being one simple natural solution. Another one I recommend is goji berries, big extract. So is it natural to take a goji berry and then extract? I consider that a natural supplement. You're taking a natural supplement and extracting it. So a lot of these things are extracted. Some vitamins that you buy are not. They're all made in a big vitamin company, and some are actually made from berries and fruits. I've got a vitamin C drink. Everything in it is extracted from actual berries and so forth. But, when I buy vitamin D that's made in the factory, I still take it because that's the best way I can get it. But you can also get it from fish oils. What is the fish? Anyway, one of those fish oils has a lot of vitamin D in it and omega-3. What is the one? Our grandmothers gave it to us. I forget right now.
Right. I know what you mean. Sardines or something?
Well, sardines are great too, but we're talking about something else. Anyway.
Cod liver.
Cod liver. Thank you. The magic cod liver oil. But if I recommend cod liver oil, not that many people will take it, even though there's really good flavored cod liver oil today. So taking some nice little chocolate vitamin D3 pills are a replacement, and they seem to work quite well. Here's the difference. The natural supplements that I recommend are tested to not have side effects. That's the difference. A lot of them are going through factories and they're making them, but they don't have side effects, dangerous side effects either. Now, somebody wrote to me and said, one of my favorite minerals to recommend is lithium orotate. It will stop the looping of the brain almost instantly for most people who are, overly sensitive people. They get depressed, they worry too much. Lithium orotate, not lithium carbonate that doctors prescribe. This is over-the-counter, low-dose lithium orotate. and they wrote to me and they said, you should tell everybody that you shouldn't eat the whole bottle. Now, it says on it, take 1 to 5 of these little tiny capsules. Don't eat the whole bottle, because if you eat the whole bottle, you get a stomach ache. Okay, now do I really have to tell everybody that?
It's kind of like writing hot on the coffee thing, right? Me and my
That's right. I mean, come on. Now, do we have to give every warning ever? You know, the people that there's people on the internet that like to put down the value of lithium orotate, and they say, oh, this is dangerous for you. The only case they can quote is the lady who went to the hospital because she ate a whole bottle of lithium orotate, and she also had a stomach ache. That was it. I mean, come on. Any substance, if you take 30 times more, will have dangerous side effects. A bottle of potassium will give you a heart attack. Magnesium will give you diarrhea. You know, calcium, too much calcium will give you arthritis. So all these things which are healthy for us, too much is not a good thing. So I'm always into lower doses. However, if you have a serious condition like memory loss, you know, taking vitamin C, for example, in high doses is very, very important. There's a great kind of vitamin C you can now take in high doses without getting diarrhea, and that's called liposomal vitamin C. People should know about that. Liposomal vitamin C is very close to actually getting an IV drip of vitamin C. And so it lasts all day inside of you as opposed to coming right through you. So, you know, you can take higher doses for short periods of times of most of these things and get some great benefit.
Thanks, Mia.
Woo! Preach it, brother. And I'm still loving the single guy electron comment you made. Back on the other point, which is excellent. So I think you touched on this already, John, but are you thinking, you know, with the diet, because this GMO thing, obviously, it's so hidden out in front of us in a way, because it's in everything. So are you feeling that we can sort of offset that we, you know, because with things not being labeled GMO, I'm such a label detective, but are you feeling like we can sort of offset the effects of things that have GMO snuck into our food?
Well, it's very scary, okay,
it's really
what GMOs
scary.
are doing to everybody. And the answer is no GMOs. We're trying to make it no GMO, at least label it. But what we can say to people, if it doesn't say organic for every ingredient, it's probably GMO. So that's the first thing. GMOs destroy gut bacteria, the good gut bacteria, every time we eat them. So the only positive thing I can say about the hope for everybody is I'm just over the moon excited about the Bravo Super Probiotic Yogurt, because it's something people can make at home. And you know what they're going to be doing now over the next few years is bringing the cost down of it. Right now, you know, as you can see on my website, I sell it for half the price they sell it in Europe. I just buy bulk amounts of it so people can get it cheaper. I want to write a book on it, and it should everybody should be making their own home yogurt, because people have been doing this for thousands of years. But the good thing about a yogurt that has all 42 of the basic primal microbiome probiotics, every time you eat it, you're restoring those probiotics back into your gut. Then you're eating your GMO product, it kills it. Then you restore it back and it kills it. So at least, you know, we're giving the body the help it needs to protect itself. The body's miraculous. That's the great news. I mean, we hear these great miraculous stories, and, you know, that's this spirit is a big part of it, but we have to deal with the body as well. Thanks for your concern. We should all be concerned, and we should stop them. And in Hawaii, they voted them off the island. It wasn't in GMO labeling. They voted them off the island. Of course, Monsanto is now fighting it in a lawsuit, and they have millions and billions of dollars. They'll probably win. To shut them down, they'll probably win, unfortunately. But at least we just, in Oregon, I think it was the labeling law, just by a few votes, lost. Of course, we have
ours did too in Colorado. It was really devastating. So I think all you can do is just vote with your pocketbook and get educated.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. That's all we can do at this point is vote with our pocketbook. And just keep letting people know, packaged foods, if they say, for example, corn syrup, that's GMO. Okay? And unless it says organic in front of it, it's GMO. That's pretty much the case now.
Yeah, it's guaranteed now.
Guaranteed now.
John, so how do you make that yogurt? Do you take like raw milk, not pasteurized, whey, almond milk? How do you make it?
Well, the researchers on it, the way they do it is they test each big batch they make of this starter kit, and they prove that it makes a certain amount of this protein GCMAF. It also does all kinds of other wonderful things that isn't researched yet. but that's the most important thing, is that the protein makes the GCMF. And the way you make the Bravo yogurt is it comes with 2 little starter packets. You boil some milk. Whole milk is fine. If you used raw milk, you still have to boil it, because you don't want any other bacteria in the yogurt, because if you have a certain bacteria, it might grow faster and the other bacteria don't get a chance to grow. So in the laboratory, they did 134 experiments to find out the right balance of probiotics to make the optimal amount of GCMAF, and they were curing cancer with it. They're still curing cancer, autism, chronic fatigue. Those are the ones that most of the research is done on. But they're saying basically every condition that has a foundation in chronic infection behind it, like autoimmune disease, chronic infection, arthritis, all the ADHD brain issues. These are all chronic infections in the brain. Oxidative stress is actually another term for chronic infection. So this is like the foundation. And throughout history, people who live long, healthy lives, they have some form of yogurt every day. And they can't make the GCMF from almond milk and soy milk and those things. It tends to have to be goat milk or cow milk that they make it from, and they can make the maximum amount of this protein.
No, what I meant actually, when we get powder, right, in the house, and then we have to mix it with something in order to make the yogurt. What do we mix it in? Do we mix it with water or almond, or what do we mix it in?
Oh, okay, real simple. I'll transmit how easy it is, because people think, how can I make yogurt? I take a quart of milk, whole milk from the grocery store, organic milk, and I put it in the bowl. I heat it up to a boil, take it off. Now there's no bacteria in it, sanitized. Now I let it sit for an hour, and then there'll be a scum on the top, which is the casein, hard to digest casein. You just scoop it off, throw it in the sink. That's done. Now you add the mix, these 2 little things to mix together. You stir it up. You're done. You put it in the oven with no heat, just the light on, or you just leave it out with a cover, and in 24 hours, it's yogurt. That's it.
Nice.
You now put it in the refrigerator, and you've got your yogurt. It's really easy. It does take a little extra time, and it lasts about a week. It would actually last a month. You know, for a child, it would last 4 months to get one package of the whole thing. They don't need much of it at all.
Karen, you want to unmute?
Okay. So John, I've got a question for you. It's kind of going back to what you were talking about, nutrition. And this is from, I guess, a perspective of cultures and different cultures. From your book, and I'm sorry I didn't read it, did you look at other cultures in terms of their diets and what that they, eat, and besides, yogurt and other things which would help them to stay young, keep their mental balance in check and to live longer? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I have examples that I know who are living right now for a really long time, and it's amazing what their diet is and watching what they eat, and it's just like it's my mother-in-law, for example. She's 89. She's going to be 89 in 5 days. Totally coherent. Used to drive. The only reason she stopped driving is because she left the island and doesn't feel comfortable driving in San Francisco, which I don't think anyone should be driving in San Francisco. And and she's Okinawan, so I don't know if you know anything about the Okinawans. So she's 89. Her sister was 95 when she passed away, and she died of a natural death, and she passed away living in Brazil. So I'm just more curious about kind of like from her diet and her perspective, it's like she's not necessarily eating yogurt, but she's taking a lot of vinegar, which I think is kind of the same with the probiotic, kind of that, and a lot of seaweed, a lot of fish, a lot of tofu, and doesn't take any sugar at all, and she does not take any prescription drugs. She's like totally drug-free.
Yeah, what you described is, if you go around the world, what you see, and you see it in that diet as well, the Okinawan diet, I've looked at all these diets, and I won't say I'm a total expert on everybody's diet, but I've read books on them all and so forth. Okinawan diet, one aspect of it is the tofu is a fermented tofu. That's the difference between American tofu and Okinawan and Asian tofu, is stinky. I mean, I've had it before, do not want to repeat it. They laugh at Westerners. It smells like a cow patty in my nose, okay? So they could never not market it. So actually in America, one of the things that's hurt our digestion the most is processed soy protein. and even tofu, which is not fermented. What she's been eating is fermented tofu. So that's sort of like the fermented yogurt I'm talking about. They also have the soy sauces. The fermented foods are what they grow the bacteria in fermentation, and that's what repopulates the gut. The second part of the Okinawan diet is the quality of minerals that they have, and the high fish diet, when the fishes were clean and pure, is they're getting their omega-3s, which help the brain. Okay, fish is an amazing diet for people. In America, it's not good, typically, because it's farm-fished, which means there's antibiotics in the fish. Okay, so when the fish become toxic, then it's no good. But ultimately, fish has rich in omega-3, which is brain food. There's a product on my website that I give usually where people want for the first few months of brain development, if they want to get their brain back. It's a omega-3 that comes from the brains of salmon, wild salmon in the ocean, and it actually goes into the brain 50 times more. But you know, those island people, they were getting the regular fish. They were also, Okinawa has a particularly high concentration of minerals in the soil, which has been documented, and they have the diet which includes fermented foods. So ultimately, it's fermented foods, which is what is so powerful. The research on this cancer thing is what they found is with dairy fermented foods, at least, is that you have to add the 42 probiotics to produce the maximum amount of this GCMAF, which allows vitamin D to do its job. There they are on the island. They're getting plenty of sunshine, so they have plenty of vitamin D. That's the first thing. They're getting the vitamin. She's not taking the drugs. If you don't take the drugs, your body can make vitamin D. But with you're taking the drugs, you're inhibiting your body's ability to make vitamin D, and therefore your immune system is not going to work effectively. And I made a little mistake there. It was also, if you take the drugs, then it inhibits your body to make something called vitamin D binding protein, which is what allows the vitamin D to work, as well as helps your body to make vitamin D. So living in Okinawa, they've had plenty of vitamin D production. They haven't taken the drugs. They have the fermented foods. They have a simple, real diet, and that they'll live to 100. There's people that are healthy at 100 around the world because they eat like that according to their culture.
Yeah, and she's also a huge, like, I call it mega dosages of vitamins. So she takes a lot of B, C, and E. That's what she takes.
Great. Those are the super ones.
Yeah, not all. I know what you just was describing all these other things, but because I'm thinking about what she actually consumes every day, and it's just like a lot of water, a lot of tea, a lot of tofu, as you said, pickled daikon. Like she eats daikon like there's no tomorrow. We've got daikon all over this house. It's pickled. It's with vinegar.
Yeah, no, vinegar. It's a pickled food. You know, these are all the things that are healthy for the gut. But unfortunately, vinegar, if you're combining it with drugs, can also
can hurt you.
That can hurt you. Yeah, it's like as soon as we brought in all of the drugs in the last, particularly the last 30 years, disease has dramatically gone up. And there is an illusion in our society today that people used to have short lives, and yet in indigenous cultures around the world, people are commonly healthy at 100. Unless they happen to live in certain areas where it was dangerous or the food was extremely deficient in minerals. So there are places, but generally speaking, people in indigenous societies, and even in America 100 years ago, people lived to 90 and 100 if they're living on a farm. It was very common. It's when people went into the cities were toxic, and London and various places, you know, there was 2 feet of horse manure in the street. You know, it was very toxic environment. That's what made people live these shorter lives in Europe and America. But prior to that, and in other places right now, John Robbins has written a wonderful book called Healthy at 100, where he goes around to several places in the world today where people are healthy at 100. And he's describing not so much their particular diet, they all have different diets, but they're real foods, there's no drugs, there's regular exercise, there's clean air, clean water, and their food is organic. That's it. You got to have your minerals.
Yeah, I mean, she's been doing organic for years, and I guess my other question to you is, as we're talking about this, is I guess the mindset. So, if you have a positive attitude, I mean, she's gone through a lot. I mean, she's been through war, famine, you know, you name it, she's gone through it. But she's always kind of has a really positive mindset in terms of always wanting to learn and change and get better. I mean, she's always doing like 4 different things at the same time. So I think it keeps the mind active because, you know, she has no sign of dementia. You know, she's just active.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, mindset, you know, mindset is a big part of everything. And I write whole books on mindset and attitude and love. I mean, love is a great healer. There's spiritual healing, all kinds of things that happen. That's just the mind part of it. We've really just been focusing on the body part of it. And they go, you know, the Greeks have a phrase, as in the mind, so in the body, but as in the body, so in the mind. And we all really learned that very clearly in the 60s when you could take a drug and you could get high and be happy as can be. But then when you crash, you're just the opposite. So what we want to do is treat the body well and be high in a normal state of who we are. And that's the greatest fulfillment.
I was thinking that you're going to say, so in the body, so in the gut.
That's a quote from you. Very good.
Layla, unmute my friend.
Hi, John. We touched on this just a little bit before the show started, but I believe it was 60 Minutes last night, and they were talking about with all the electronics and our phones 24/7 and all that stuff, and our brains are becoming like a pinball machine and they cannot concentrate. And one of the things that they talked about was meditation. But how hard it is for most of us to do that anymore because we simply cannot concentrate on one thing. And so that's what they were saying to do. And so my routine every night is to wake up wide awake at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, ugh. And so last night I decided to do the meditation, but the only way that I could do it, because I could not concentrate on a single thought, was to literally take my fingers and put just some slight pressure right here, and I thought about my fingers on my forehead, and I was out, I think, in 5 minutes, and I woke up about 2.5 hours later, and instead of feeling like I was rehashed, I felt like I was reinvigorated. And it's just amazing to me how we don't even realize how tumultuous our brains are anymore with all the stuff that goes on in our life.
Well, I love what you're talking about, and you know, I've been a teacher of meditation for over 40 years. I was Marshi's personal assistant. Back in the 60s, 70s, they did all that brain research starting at Harvard and everything on my brain. So the mindfulness revolution is really, really important. And I guess that's why I focus, for me, so much on the physiology, because here I am, a master of mindfulness, which I am. I spent my 40 years teaching this and doing all this, and yet I got Parkinson's when I turned 50. And it's not a guarantee that you'll be healthy if you practice mindfulness, but it's a part of the puzzle. Okay, it's a part of the puzzle. But you can just, you know, have this great relaxed brain which can focus and so forth. But you eat poor foods, you get exposed to toxicity. You take, you know, you think you're taking good drugs, but they have awful side effects. Then suddenly you get really sick. You know, I'm friends with a lot of the great meditation masters. You know, like. I know their sicknesses and diseases. They all get sick. Basically, they have I won't say all. You can't say all, but they're not necessarily healthy. I'll put it that way. So having said that, to have mindfulness doesn't necessarily mean to be healthy. But if you're eating well, but your mind is scattered all the time, then your stress levels will be higher and you won't be healthy. Now, for you, when you're just mentioning doing the mindfulness technique at 4 o'clock in the morning, that was really good that you did that. But I would also look at what is the cause of why you've been waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. The reason people, when they wake up in the middle of the night, usually this happens to people as they get older or when they're going through a very stressful event in their life. And what's going on is something called adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue means your fight or flight thing gets a little thrown off. And when you eat too much carbohydrate at dinner, your blood sugar levels gradually start getting higher and higher. Then the blood sugar goes up. But it takes a while, and it crashes around 4 o'clock in the morning. For some people, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, it's naturally supposed to go down, but it's supposed to take the whole night to slowly go down. And then when blood sugar goes down, cortisol goes up, and it wakes you up like you're ready to go to work. You know, I got a day to go. It energizes you. What's happening is your blood sugar levels are dropping too soon. And so you're waking up, and it's hard to go back to sleep because, you know, you're alert, and you're like, the cortisol is up. Now, doing a meditation practice at that time, meditation is proven to lower your cortisol levels. But ideally, you can actually adjust your diet so you can have that wonderful meditation at sunrise, which is a good time to meditate. So How would you then adjust your blood sugar levels? Well, one is to watch the amount of carbohydrates you eat at night. That's one thing. But two is to go to the drugstore and buy one of these little blood sugar testing kits. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Have you ever tested? So it's like $50. You go to a drugstore and you can buy this little pin pricker and a little device that diabetics use these every day. And it measures your blood sugar when you're waking up in the morning. So you test it first thing in the morning, called fasting blood sugar. And if it's above 85, you're on your way to diabetes. And you don't want that to happen because that's the highest risk of heart disease, dementia, Parkinson's, all that stuff. And if you go to your doctor, he'll say, oh, if it's 100, you're just pre-diabetes. That's okay, or you're getting there. If you're at 100, you're already on your way in a bad direction. You want to get it back to 85. Regular exercise in the morning will help bring it back later. So the next day, it's going to be lower. That's the first thing. And cutting back on sugars will do it. But the problem I've seen for some people, they cut back on sugars, but their blood sugar still stays high. The body doesn't heal. A simple thing, there's lots of things now that are proven to heal this condition. My favorite is from Dr. Hans Nieper in Germany, who used minerals to cure everything. And his thing was a product called membrane support, 2-AEP, amino ethyl phosphate bonded to magnesium, potassium, and calcium, to restore the membranes in your cells so that they will absorb the sugar and you won't end up with high blood sugar that then causes it to go too low and wake you up in the middle of the night. But that's like a 2 to 3 month process to restore normal blood sugar levels. But I've seen that happen. It happened for me. About 6 years ago or so, I used to eat a meal and I'd feel kind of tired. I'd also be waking up around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I go, what is this? I tested my blood sugar. It was around 100. And that's unhealthy. You need to get it down, and it takes several months of taking extra support for that to happen. That's one of the products that has been known to do that. There's others.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
John, thank you so much. I mean, this is so educational. We're moving, I feel like kind of like a little roller coaster. It's like, we're happy in relationships, we're doomed, you know, with the food. No, there's some solution with some minerals.
You know, let me speak about doomsday for another moment. If somebody was to follow the recommendations in my book, only about 10% of our population could afford an organic diet. That's the sad truth. It's very, very sad. And what's happening with our government, we vote with our dollars, as Mia said before, I think it was Mia, is that we just have to stop buying the junk food. And when people stop buying it, they'll start making it what we want. But the problem with it is our government subsidizes the ingredients in junk food. They subsidize corn, GMO corn, which becomes corn syrup, which is a filler in most of every product you buy on the shelves. And soy is again supplemented by the government. So the people who make the junk foods get to make their foods cheaper. So we all get cheap junk food, but the people who are making real food get no supplements and they're going broke and committing suicide. They can't make money. We have to support the farmers. We have to support the farmers market. We have to just start eating food that doesn't have labels on it as much as possible. And in the meantime, a few foods with labels that are extra vitamins, extra nutrients, and so forth. I totally in that camp of believing that supplements are important as well.
Well, you just brought up a really awesome fact and challenge, is that it is super expensive to be healthy, right? And so I was talking about that with a few friends. You're going to like that answer. It's like, yes, but how much does being cancer sick cost you? How much does your health cost you, right? So invest in your food rather than in your health insurance, even though now you have to have health insurance. So it's kind of like a very weird thing of how do you vote with your money when you don't have a lot of money to vote with to begin with?
Well, actually, let's be practical here. For some people that don't have a lot of money, there are inexpensive cures as well. They just take more willpower, fierce intention, and that is by accessing your body's ability to cleanse. Now, this is more challenging, but hey, if you sometimes you don't have money because you're not working hard, but other people are working very hard. They have good willpower, but they're in an unfortunate situation and discrimination and all the problems we see. Okay, so if you have the willpower, that's taking responsibility for your health. There are things you can do that are inexpensive, and I talk about those in my book as well. Taking baths, although some people don't even have bathtubs. But here's one of the most powerful things you can do for any mental, anxious, nervous, stress-producing state of the brain is you take a bath and you put some Epsom salt, which is a few dollars. Okay, it's inexpensive. But if you can't, don't put it in, or put a little in. And it's you make it start out at 98 degrees for 20 minutes, then go up to 101 degrees for 20 minutes, and 103 degrees for 20 minutes. Now, what that bath will do, they've done this with autistic children. The study showed that just in 30 minutes, autistic children had dramatic benefits. Eye contact, communication, more words, right after the bath. But if you put them in a normal temperature bath, no improvement at all. So this is just the beginning stage of hydrotherapy. That's one thing that's very inexpensive. The next is the most powerful, is fasting. Now, January's coming up. I'm going to gain 5, maybe 8 pounds this Christmas because I'm going to enjoy myself at some of the parties we have. And I'm going to gain some weight. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not sure which it will be. Every year I do either a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, or 4 week fast. Now, this last year I did a 3 week fast. The year before I did a 1 month fast. But the 3 week fast was with my wife. And I just had soup. Okay, that's it. You just make soup every day, and that's what you make. You get a chicken, you make your chicken stock, or you go to your farmer's market, you get bones, which are $25 for a week's supply of soup. And you get the bones, and you make bone soup. And you go online, you learn how to make bone soup. It's filled with stem cells, and you're going to get the most expensive healing therapy you can buy, which is bone soup. That's the Chinese version. When I go to China and look at their healing techniques, besides using the fermented foods, they also drink a lot of bone soup, and soup is a big deal. Now, the bones you cook 24 hours overnight, so there's an art to this. So fasting is a really powerful way. Now, when I was a younger guy, I still do it occasionally, I do water and lemon. That's it. Now, I know lemons are expensive now, but go find a tree. Somebody's got a tree. But anyway, get those lemons and squeeze half a lemon into a glass of water and put some honey in it, stir it up, and drink it. And that's what you drink all day long. Lemon and honey water. You start with 1 day, gradually build up to doing a week, to going a couple of weeks. Your body will heal itself. And if there was one supplement I'd recommend to take when you're fasting, it's super minerals. It's to get the minerals so you don't feel hungry. And your body's, the most important thing we need is minerals. We usually have more extra fat on our body, which has everything we need if we can metabolize it. You just have to slightly starve yourself, and your body will go, okay, let's use the bank account, and it will start using it. But to get there, we need to relax, and we need to have mineral supplements, because you got to take minerals from nature on a regular basis. Every second, we're using up our minerals, and you have to replenish them. So that's a big key factor.
I love it, because this is the one main thing that was a challenge for, for everybody who's watching the previous Hangouts and reading the book. It's like, how do I start? I just can't afford it. So I love everything that you said. Last question.
Let me just wait one thing. One of some criticisms I get is, John, you give people too many options. And I feel like, wait a second, I'm just educating, to give someone the actual protocol for them. You can't. People have to experiment a little bit. The great thing about the options I give is there's no side effects to them. You can't go wrong with them. And if I'm suggesting something that's too expensive, go with something that's cheaper and see if it works. So many of these things, I've seen kids just with vitamin C and grapeseed extract, not grapefruit, grapeseed extract, just a couple of capsules twice a day, and their brain works better, their ADHD symptoms disappear. You don't have to give drugs and so forth. It's so sad that people go, well, my drugs are free, I have to pay for my vitamins. And I go, it's called personal responsibility for health. That what I've heard is the average Japanese person spends more money on high quality food than their rent or their mortgage payments. That's how they value their health more. It's what do we value in our lives. But the problem is, back to what was stated on the 60-minute show, we're being overstimulated. That overstimulation actually causes injury to the brain, massive free radical damage, overstimulation. What happens, overstimulation means if you're looking in a bright light, your pupils will immediately constrict. And then you go in darkness, and they'll open back up. So overstimulation is like looking in a bright light. Literally, the neurons in our brain begin to shrink and disappear. This is proven. This is called the down-regulation of receptor sites in the brain. They just disappear, and then you go over and unplug and do something relaxing, easy, with no goal in mind, not making money, but just some personal interaction with somebody that you're enjoying, and the receptor sites that come back, they start coming back. What Parkinson's disease is they don't come back. What ADHD is they don't come back right away. What drug addiction is, alcohol, for example, can overstimulate, the receptor sites flatten out, and now the next day you feel horrible. Your brain's not working. You're not happy. You're not fulfilled. You're looking for something, and your brain goes, that drug will make the dopamine, and then you make more dopamine, which means less receptor sites. Now you need more dopamine, less receptor sites. So you literally become addicted to whatever overstimulated you. And here we are on the internet, and one of the biggest drug stimulants that in the world today is internet pornography. Internet pornography is heroin on the brain. Literally, you have to have withdrawals if you go away from it. And once again, there's supplements that will help you go through the withdrawal. You know, I know people that have given up heroin, given up alcohol, and they still hunger for it. They're still missing it. It's because they never healed their brain. If your brain upregulates, then you don't miss it. You're not living your whole life feeling a hole in your soul, but you're able to feel content in the moment, which is kind of what we started out with, is you can be attached to the moment. You care, but not too much. You're able to keep letting go, and you're enjoying the moment, and then you can let go.
This is so perfect because it starts really with our personal responsibility for everything in our life, from our health, from our food, from our diet, our happiness, and then the relationship. So Roxanne, last question, and because we are so over time. Go for it.
Well, I was just wondering if you'd ever talked about the vitamins and minerals with pregnancies.
You know, I haven't written any books on vitamin and minerals with pregnancies, and usually supplements will say if you're pregnant, check with your doctor, who unfortunately is the worst person I would ever talk to because they don't know anything about vitamins. So you really have to do some research for yourself. Basically, every vitamin that I recommend at my website is all fine to take when you're pregnant, unless I say not. But in most cases, they're all fine. And this is just from my experience. I know, for example, lithium orotate, which anybody should be taking if they're going through a stressful experience, and pregnancy can be stressful. The actual bottle says don't take if you're going through pregnancy. I say, well, if my children all did, my daughters all took it. But what they're looking at when they say don't do it is they're comparing lithium to high-dose lithium, which is what they give to people who have schizophrenia. And high-dose lithium carbonate is toxic to the body, so you shouldn't take lithium carbonate when you're pregnant. But there's nothing wrong with low-dose lithium orotate. So there's a lot of warnings for women again and again, but I do have some warnings that I think are very legitimate, and that you shouldn't take any substance that's known to detoxify your body during pregnancy. Because when you detoxify, then it goes into the child. So you don't want to practice anything that's known. So there's a lot of agents on my website that have to do with facilitating detoxification. You don't want to facilitate that during a pregnancy. But any woman who's thinking about having children, I would suggest at least once a year to always do a thorough cleanse, some form of fasting, some cleansing diet. And a cleansing diet could be just eating vegetables for 2 weeks, no proteins or low protein. It can be having soup for a couple of weeks. You can start with a day with any of these ideas. There's wonderful books on cleansing as well. But the cleanse before having pregnancy is an amazing gift to your child to come. Be careful during pregnancy of taking any over-the-counter drug or any prescribed drug. Very, very dangerous. More and more research is showing that just taking Tylenol during pregnancy increases the risk of autism in your children. Taking Tylenol during pregnancy increases the risk of ADHD. Taking Pitocin at the time of childbirth to induce the labor. Now, this is something that in some hospitals, 90% of children, mothers giving birth to children, receive Pitocin. Other hospitals, they only do it if absolutely necessary. Yeah. But doctors will just put it in there. Okay, let's not have a long labor. Let's just put the Pitocin in, which causes contractions to stir them up, to stimulate them. The problem is they're different kind of contractions. They're faster. I mean, they rise faster and they're more intense. And the research shows, I will say, it causes some injury in the brain. But what the research shows is that in one study of 300 children, whose mothers were given Pitocin to induce labor, 80% of them were all diagnosed later with ADHD. And I would say, as I point out in my new book, that the other 20% could be another temperament, and it's not diagnosed as ADHD, but instead of hyperactive or hyper-distracted, it could be hyper-responsible, which means you become a perfectionist and you're always hard on yourself, or you become hypersensitive and you get in relationships and you always feel like people aren't giving to you because you give so much. You know, hypersensitive people always can think about how it's going to feel to somebody else, so they're always giving more, and then you get your feelings hurt when other people don't think the same way, and you don't realize they're totally different from you. They show love differently, but they're not as sensitive. Some people really have thick skins, other people have thin skins, and when you add this hyperstimulation to it, then we become hypersensitive. So I'm really against Pitocin unless it's an emergency. And then whenever these crises happen, then I focus on, okay, how do we help the body deal with it later, which would be high doses of vitamin C, grapeseed extract, different type, glutathione, vitamin E, tocotrienols. There's certain natural supplements that are very high in antioxidants. And tocotrienols you can get from rice bran solubles. You can get this in natural substances as well. Goji berries, really great with vitamin C.
Thank you so much, John. I mean, you walked us from, you know, the doomsday, the expensive one, and then how do we solve it, and then, you know, like the ways that we can start even if we don't have a lot of money to invest. I love the yogurt idea. I'm going to get it because, you know, my kid has allergies. I think we can start with that. And
allergies certainly is leaky gut causes the allergies without a doubt, and within 3 weeks most people's leaky gut is healed, which is like magic. Nobody will believe it until you experience it, but it doesn't mean all your allergies go away right away. So it takes a while for the allergens, for the body to go get rid of the need to have the allergy. So what you can do symptomatically in the meantime is vitamin C and quercetin. Have you heard of quercetin?
No.
This is like a miracle supplement that's in the health food stores. Vitamin C and quercetin. You can also give them cooked nettle leaves at the farmers market. There's nettles. Nettles are great as a natural antihistamine. The quercetin helps to take extra histamines out of the body, and vitamin C will usually take it away right away on a symptomatic level. The yogurt helps to heal the cause.
Love it, because you know we've been, and I don't want to extend this even more because I know I appreciate your time so much. We just said 1 hour, and we can go on. Like I told you, there's like videos of you for 2 hours, and I'm just like listening for them. So this is wonderful. Everybody, please get the book. You know, this is only $3 on Kindle. It's right next to the Hangout. It's, you know, I mean, investing in your health, it hasn't been cheaper than that, and it's so good. So John, thank you so much for your time here.
It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for inviting me to join you, and thank everybody on the Hangout here. Enjoyed it.
Thanks guys for joining us, and we'll see you in a few weeks in another episode of Emerging Futures. What's next?